And present Mike Millsaps. We'll get started. We'll call the meeting to order for this work session on this date at 2 p.m. And if you'll go ahead and that's item number 4 is going to be moved up to item number 1, and that is police department camera contract. And so if you will, please go ahead.
All right. We currently use Flock. We got 2 cameras from Flock that we're using. It's like $6,420 annually that we use it for. With the new system, it's the Verkada. We're able to cut a lot of that cost out of it. Plus, the cameras, we don't own the Flock cameras. We will own these cameras after a certain period of time. The camera that we're getting is 360 degrees. They're already up. We've already used them. They let us try them out. So we did like those. These cameras are $5,968.67 annually. For the first 5 years, it covers the purchase of the cameras, license fees for 5 years, and the annual cost will decrease due to owning the cameras. After 5 years, only paying for software license through Verkada. The change will result in having more equipment, having an annual savings of $451.33 annually, for a total savings of $2,256.65 over a 5-year span. The decrease in pricing after 5 years will then allow the possibility of adding additional cameras for a system, increasing the visibility in the town. Works out well for every event. These cameras are face recognition. If we go in with cameras from Walmart, different places, we could actually follow somebody from a traffic scene to wherever they go, pretty much, and help us locate that. Other than that, that's it for those cameras. So that's what we're looking to do.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Do they do the same thing that the Flock cameras? Are they tied into the database so they're searching for certain things that the Flock cameras are?
They will do the same thing as Flock, but more. These cameras have more face recognition, and the Flock costs us way more money to have. And we don't own Flock cameras. They will continue to own their cameras, but we will own these. So once we purchase them after 5 years and we're using them anyway, we'll be able to continue to add more cameras without having to that cost.
Have other departments, other police departments or sheriff's towns switched to these cameras, and what are their results?
The ones that we know of have done well with it. The Sheriff's Department was looking to do it, but right now he was already in contract to do something else, so he's going to try. He wants to see what happens with ours, and they may very well go to it as well, because, like I said, it's a big savings. But we could show you these cameras if you'd understand a little bit better, but right now I can't do that. But sometimes we won't take a look at them, we'd be glad to show you. But
you're saying their clarity, like it is a very clear.
it's a better camera. The Flock cameras are great, don't get me wrong. But these cameras allow us to do a whole lot more with a whole lot less money.
Well, my question was, my understanding of the Flock camera is that it's tied into a database. So, like, if there's something that somebody's looking for anywhere in the state or the country, and that shows up on that camera, you're alerted immediately.
Right.
Okay, so this camera does that same thing.
We still got the same database.
Okay.
We can still do those same capabilities.
Okay, so we cannot make a decision.
I'll ask you a question. This is a finance question. So is the money already budgeted for this month? Is it already in the budget?
Yeah, it's already an expense that we make. We're just changing who the vendor
I
is.
don't know that, we got an expert right here on the left shoulder. But I would think if it's already in the budget, in other words, you don't have to appropriate any more money. Just switching vendors. I mean, you got a lot of authority as a manager to do a lot of stuff to fall through and enact it and do the budget. What are they pressing for some kind of piece of paper, Chief?
No, we're just informing you that we were hoping to go to a lot less more money coming out of our budget to pay for a camera that we think is going to has a capability of doing a whole lot more.
Well, we're going to be sitting right here 2 weeks from today, are we not?
Yes, yeah. Okay.
This is put on there.
Sounds good. We'll go with that. Is it okay with everyone? Put on then. Thank you for bringing that to us.
Yes, sir.
We'll hear more about it, I'm sure.
We'll get you more information on it if you like.
Okay. Okay, Randy Burns is here with our college, Alexander campus, the CVCC, and he wants to talk with us about, well, first of all, we'd like to increase that enrollment. Randy, if we increase the enrollment, we have access to more money from the state.
Absolutely, and that's one thing I brought, and I leave a couple of copies of this. So this is the application that I did this year to the North Carolina Community College System for what's called multi-campus designation. There are several community colleges around the state that serve more than one county. For example, Wilkes County serves also Ashe County, and they have a multi-campus designation for Ashe County. Caldwell serves Watauga, that's the same deal. CVCC serves Catawba and Alexander County, but we're considered a center because we haven't hit the benchmarks that they need us to hit. I'm trying not to speak in acronyms here, sorry. So full-time equivalencies, or FTEs, we need to get to 300, which basically that's one student enrolled in 12 hours of classwork. So once we get to 300, we can then pull down, and this application becomes even more valid. But I will say, I do have a unanimous resolution from the Alexander County Commission in here. I've got a letter from Michael Worley, the EDC person in here. A copy of it's a pretty comprehensive document. And if you look, for example, on page 3, there's a list of everything we currently offer at Catawba Valley Community College here in Alexander County. And I'm very proud of that list, but that list isn't in no way, shape, or form going to get us to where we need to be. So we need to continue to add. So we applied for a Appalachian Regional Commission grant. We were notified about a month ago that we did receive the grant. What I'm here today is tell you how invested Catawba Valley Community College is in Alexander County. Not only are they providing the $300,000 match for that ARC grant to expand our trades programs, I've also got a commitment from Dr. Henshaw for $120,000 for renovations to create additional lab space at the center. So what happens if we understand basically it takes investment to get to where we want to be. Last year, this would have meant $668,000 for the Alexander campus. If we can get this multi-campus designation through and get it across the finish line. So what we're planning to do with the $600,000 investment, actually $720,000 investment, is we're going to stand up a new HVAC lab, heating, air conditioning, ventilation at the Alexander campus. We're going to expand our electrical training program, and we're going to update and modernize the equipment in our welding program. So the focus is going to be on trades. Here's the catch. We have a great relationship with Alexander County High School. We work together. There comes a point where they can't do more for us because, for example, if a student wants to take, I'm bringing Bio 168, which is science lab. Well, in order for the students who are currently at Alexander County schools to take 168, that means they're not taking something else. They only have 70 hours a day. So what we have to try to figure out how to do, and we're going to do it through trades, I think, is reach out to folks who either need to upskill, that just want to come back to school and want to get an education, or want to take short class. For example, I've got Phlebotomy starting in January. We've got a new Furniture Academy class starting in January 5th. So as we continue to reach out to those folks, I will say that year before last, we were at 185 FTE, full-time equivalents. This past year, we finished at 212. And that's what's in this report, and I say that, but I can also say that by the time we reconciled everything, we were 224. And we need to get to 300. You'll also notice in this that if they let us count the instructional programs that we run at the Alexander County Correctional Facility, we will overbe there. But for some reason, they don't want to let us count that. So I just my main goal in being here today is to let you guys know that CDCC is invested, we're committed, and that time to time we may be calling on you guys to help us figure our way through an issue that we've got. I am over here not all the time. My title is senior executive. I think they just called me old. Senior Executive Director for Campus Centers. I'm also in charge of the programs that we're developing and building at the new Dale Earnhardt Regional Innovation Complex, partnered with the Hickory Aviation Museum. It's on the property at Hickory Airport. And I'd love to take any of you guys up there and show you what we're doing anytime. Second part, do you have any questions for me?
It came up in a discussion yesterday, as a matter of fact, that I made the comment that one of the biggest mistakes I feel like Alexander County Schools had ever made was dissolving the auto mechanics program. And the response was that CDCC can do that tomorrow. You know, that they wanted to put that program back in there. And I think you could probably make up some of those numbers by bringing that back, because it served a lot of students at the high school. I mean, I taught there for 30 years, and you know, that program was always full. It was one that they didn't have enough room for the kids that wanted to participate, but they didn't want to bring it up to where it needed to be to move forward.
Yeah, because there's a lot of state and federal requirements around facilities, particularly for automotive with exhaust and matter of fact, the garage area in the new building that I did at the airport, the floor system even had to be created in a way that, and with a certain slope and pitch, and there's a catch basin, if you will, outside. It pulls air through there, so if there would happen to be a spill, it's pulling everything down through the floor, and any solids or liquids end up in the catch basin. But that's a great idea, and it's something we're looking at. I just left our fall meeting with and your town manager was there as well, with our advisory group. It's a partnership with Colorado Valley Community College and Alexander Central High School. Had a great group of kids today presenting their CTE programs and what they're doing. That was pretty awesome. I wish I hadn't said a word. I'd rather just listen to them all day, because they're pretty excited about what they're doing. But as long as we continue to expand our career and technical education offerings like automotive, we're going to win in the end. But again, the other thing is, it's kind of hard to think about, but there is a captive audience at the high school. And they're there for a certain number of hours a day. And if they're taking this, they're not taking this. You see what I'm saying? So it's hard for us to build our FTE count beyond what we've done at high school. We're going to continue to make sure that we're relevant and that we're teaching and doing the things that the students need to become successful and productive members of society. But where I need your help more than anything else is any counsel or advice that you can give me on how to reach those that are no longer in high school. How many of you have seen the Opportunity Youth demographic that's published by My Future NC? Those numbers are close to 10% of our 16 to 24-year-olds that aren't on the rolls working. They're not registered in any kind of educational program. We don't know where they are. We need to find those people and make sure that we get them plugged into a program that's going to help them succeed. And in doing so, help us succeed.
Yeah, of course.
So So what you're saying is the cohort students at the high school are not included in your FTE?
No, they are included.
Okay,
So between
I
the
just wanna make
cohorts and the early college, they generate about 100 FTE for us every year.
okay.
And there are some things that we could do to increase that, like, it really depends on where a program starts. So let's say, for example, if a class starts on our campus, even though 95% of the instruction happens in the high school campus, I still get credit for all of those hours. So we're looking at ways to do that too.
But you're still gonna have,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
okay, good.
Yeah, we're not taking
That
anything
makes
away
sense.
from programs we've got, we're just looking at how to make those better, make sure they remain relevant, and look beyond the high school for opportunities for incumbent workers.
I will add that Randy serves with me on the executive committee of Western Piedmont Council of Governments, as well as being a county commissioner in Burke County. So his credentials, I don't see how you do all of that, but thank you for being here in Alexander County.
I also, Phil Berger appointed me to the North Carolina Education Workforce Innovation Commission this past year. And I felt really blessed that our first meeting, guess where our first in-person meeting was held?
CDCC.
Alexander County, at the Fire Academy.
Oh, yes.
So I also serve on the board of directors for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, and it was that scheduling thing. Okay, I can go to my first meeting in Alexander County with the commission, or I can go be sworn in for my board position. I chose Alexander County. They can swear me in next time. But I wasn't going to miss an opportunity to be over here.
Thank
The
you.
Fire Academy is an excellent
It is.
addition to your program.
It is amazing. That is one thing that we have really picked up on, particularly this fall. We've started really pushing and hammering on our public safety programs at the campus over there. So I suspect we're going to gain nearly 20 FTE just by the focus that we put on that.
Randy, again, so if you meet the 300 FTE target, what does that mean financially?
It means a $668,000 allocation to this campus, and it gives us multi-campus designation.
Have they given you did you say a timeline on that? When you have to reach it by the 300?
No.
They didn't give you a
No.
timeline.
And this application I did, understanding that I did it, knowing that I wasn't there, I'm gonna stay in front of them. And they're gonna have to turn it down. If I don't get it, it won't because I didn't have an application in front of them. So I'll leave a couple of these with you guys. You can disseminate and read them at your pleasure. Council, I want to just say thank you from the bottom of my heart for letting me come in and spend a few minutes with you today. Primary reason was I just want to meet you. And I want to know if there's anything I can do for you. I've got an old friend here that he already knows all about me, so don't believe a word he says when I leave.
I'm not speaking.
Randy, thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Okay, let's go with Withers and Ravenel presentation.
Yeah, turn it on the side. Side.
Just making sure. Right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deepthi Kalyanam. I'm a senior project manager at Withers Ravenel and Funding and Asset Management Group. I am also a project manager on the Water AI project that we did in New York. So today we come here to present the findings, the results of the Water AI project. Alright, so what I'm going to cover today is starting from like what is an AIA, AND, as you'll be hearing those terms throughout through the presentation. We'll go over the project scope as to like what we were contracted to do as a part of this project. And then we'll go over the findings, basically your system overview, the condition and criticality, what's the condition of your system, what assets are critical, and then how we came up with your capital improvements plan. So, what is an AIA and AND? AIA is an asset inventory and assessment grant program by the state that supports utilities like yourself to more proactively manage your assets, make informed decisions about your capital investments, and basically make utilities more viable, make more financially sound. An asset management plan is the AMP, that is a deliverable that we have that I just handed over to Nathan. It's a part of this AIA grant program. It contains all the information about your water system. What does your water system consist of? What are your assets? What condition are they in? What assets are critical, because not all assets are equally important. Some assets are serving more critical customers that you want to make sure that there's no water outage to those customers. So we identify those assets and we use that condition and critical information to develop your CIP project. So what assets are critical and where should my CIP investments be? And ultimately, where's the funding coming from? How do you pay for those projects? The scope of the Water AIA project consists of GIS mapping, which means that we did take all your as-built, record drawings, thanks to Erin for providing us the information that we could take all of that, digitize it, so you don't have to deal with all your paper maps anymore. We digitized all of that, we incorporated all the information into your GIS mapping. And then we did some gap analysis to see like, okay, where is the gaps? How do we complete the connectivity of your water system? So we sent our field crew to collect some field data to complete those gaps so that everything is connected and your entire water system is not digitally mapped. We also incorporated your staff's institutional knowledge, because there could be some times when not everything is captured in the drawing, so we made sure that we submitted some system mapbooks for Aaron's team to provide some information if there is anything that needs to be updated. So we did the record drawings, we took staff's institutional knowledge, we did the field work to complete your mapping. And like I mentioned, we did some condition criticality, which I'll go over in the slides coming, and then we also built a hydraulic model to look at like overall system performance. And then finally, we did the 10 years capital improvements plan. There are some recommendations on the operations and maintenance side of things. At the same time, we also built a life cycle model, which is providing the town with a long-term understanding of your financial needs. That's more like 50 years, 100 years. Now, what do you do to maintain your system in fair condition? And you have the money whenever these assets fail, because certain assets might be in a good condition right now, but 50 years from now, they will be on the verge of, failing. They'll be at their end of useful life. So we made some recommendations as to what is the money that you need to keep aside now to be able to replace those assets when the time comes. So, as a part of the GIS mapping, once that's been completed, this is your asset water system inventory summary. Your water mains are about 165,902 linear foot. Your valves are 609. Fire hydrants are 183. Storage tanks 2. Booster pump station, you have 1 of it. And then you have 6 interconnections with Energy United, 2 with Hickory and Alexander County, and all this has been included in the asset management plan, along with information as to like which interconnections are for emergency use, which ones are active, which ones are inactive, and things like all of that is included. So now you know what your system comprises of in terms of your water infrastructure. The next thing that we did is to look at the condition. For a sewer system, normally there's recommendations, you can insert a camera and you can look at the condition of the lines, but for the water system, unfortunately that's not the case. So we looked at the age data, we looked at the install dates to look at like, okay, if it's a ductile iron pipe or if it's a PVC pipe, what is the normal expected life of that pipe? And then we compared against like, okay, when was this pipe put in the ground? So we looked at that information and had some we prepared some condition ratings based on where they are within that life cycle, where they are within their age. Any lines that have been close to their useful life or surpassed their useful life have been rated as a 5, which is a very poor condition, and or end of life rating, versus a line that has been more recently put is even an excellent or a good condition. So for distribution mains and valves, we use that age information. For fire hydrants, we had some visual inspections performed by our staff, so we use that. And for the hydrants that we don't have visual inspections, we looked at the age data as well. The storage tanks, we looked at the condition assessments that have been performed by the town. We used that to provide recommendations. And the booster pump station, which I believe you have recently replaced the pumps a couple of years ago, so those would be a very fairly good condition, so we didn't use any CIP recommendations for that. So your water mains and valves and hydrants are all in a pretty good condition. 95%, 96% for your valves, 95% for your hydrants. So majority of your system is in a pretty good condition with respect from an age perspective. And in terms of your storage tanks, like I mentioned, the condition assessment reports, we have reviewed that, they're all in a good condition, and the booster pump station, which has been recently, the pumps have been recently replaced, those are also given a good rating. So the next comes the criticality, the consequences of failure. Now once we looked at what is the likelihood of failure by the condition, the next thing is like, what happens if this pipe fails? What is the impacts to the town? How much money you need to spend? What customers are going to get impacted? What is the volume of customers that are going to get impacted? We look at all of this information, which is service impacts, proximity to critical infrastructure, proximity to critical users, such as hospitals, schools, a town hall, fire stations. Look at all of that information to see which assets will provide you, will have a huge impact if those lines fail. So your CIP projects are prioritized over those lines versus the lines which have a lesser impact to the town. Again, majority of your system is, again, really well looped, which means that the impacts of a line failing is less. So 86%, 94% is about very low to fair for your water mains and valves. So that means that about 5 and 2% of your water mains and valves are in that high to very high category. So not a majority of your system requires looping or things like that that will create more CIP projects for you. So once the condition and criticality scores have been assigned to each pipe segment, we multiply those two scores to come up with the risk. Which lines are in a poor condition, and which lines are in a poor condition, and if they fail, which ones have a huge impact on your system. So that gives a risk score. So like I mentioned, since majority of the system is in a good condition and it's well looped, the risk scores are in the extreme and high category pretty much 0. The moderate or significant category is about 2% and 3%, and then a lot of your systems in the low to very low category of the risk of failure. So that's good news. Like I mentioned, we have also built a hydraulic model for your system. It's a basic hydraulic model. We did some HPR, hydrant pressure recording, to calibrate the model, to look at your system pressures, fire flow availabilities, and also the water quality. There are some recommendations that came out of the model, installation of SCADA sensors on the pumps and tanks. I think this is already in the works that I mentioned that you all are working with Energy United, so you're already taking that step. To move forward with that, that's great. There's some additional recommendations in terms of like performing some targeted fire flow testing, some pressure monitoring, and implementing a valve exercising program to make sure that your valves are performing and they're in good condition. So all this kind of like helps your system in improving the performance, at the same time will give you some operational awareness as well. So from the risk analysis, from the model, and also like looking at the town's existing CIP projects and goals, we have come up with this, the top 10 or 11 projects are developed as a part of this AIA project, and then we also added in some of the existing CIP projects at the bottom that we have received from the town, so that you have everything in one place. I'll go over this in a map. So this is a visual representation. The 4th Avenue and the Highway 90, 16, these are all like upsizing of your lines to better serve your needs of future developments. And then we also have included some replacements of smaller diameter lines, which 2-inch lines, 1-inch lines, which are not which are not recommended as per the state for fire flow, carrying fire flow flows. And we also included some replacement of valves, hydrants, and also any meters, AMR meters that are more than 10 years of age. So you have like on an annual basis, you can set aside a certain amount of money to replace, not all at once, but like to a certain number each year. So the life cycle model, which I talked about a little bit, provides you with that long-term financial needs and understanding as to what your system would need over a 50 or 100-year time period. For water mains and valves, we looked at, again, that 100-year time frame. We looked at different budget scenarios based on your current budget, based on a recommended budget, and if you have like all kinds of the money, what you can do with it. So based on that, we got recommendations. Again, that is based on your current state of the system. Since majority of the system is in a pretty good condition today, but in the future, those lines will deteriorate. Those lines will need some rehabilitation. Those lines will need replacements. So $150,000 in annual investment, putting that money aside will help you maintain your system to a fair condition throughout the coming years. Hydrants, we recommend about $20,000 in annual investment so that you'll be able to maintain all your hydrants in a fair condition, and that will help you replace about 2 hydrants a year, and for the water mains and valves, it's about 1,157 liters per year. Lastly, some future and next steps is that one of the things that we recommend to our clients is that to maintain your GIS with any projects that you're completing, any construction projects, just so that your GIS is up to date. You have the most latest and greatest data in your GIS. So make sure your GIS is updated, and then your asset management plan is also updated on a periodic basis, depending on like the number of projects you're completing, and you have like further needs. Having an up-to-date AMP will provide you with the latest CIP requirements for town. At the same time, we included the cost estimates in your CIP based on the current inflation rates and everything, but with the market volatility and everything, make sure that the cost estimates are updated on a regular basis. Also, having a formal O&M program will be really helpful for your operations staff. We did put some recommendations in the asset management plan for your O&M. For your operation maintenance, for your water assets, for your tanks, for your pumps, it would be nice to have a good formal program so they can kind of like make that checklist and make sure that everything is checked on an annual basis, semi-annual basis, or monthly, depending on what the manufacturing needs are. Last couple of things, coordinate with your street maintenance, paving, your sewer projects. If you all have anything, whenever you have a sewer project or whenever you have a street paving project, you can kind of time and see like, okay, what can I do with respect to your water main replacements during that time. That will help you save significant amount of costs with the paving of streets, public inconvenience, and all of that, approvals and all of that. So having everything done at the same time really provides a huge cost savings for the town. Again, like I mentioned, ARP updates and any CIP updates to be made on an annual basis. And lastly, to develop a formal funding strategy or a program so that you all know like what's out there. Have a meeting with state representatives, talk to funding experts to see what grant programs, what loan programs are available for the projects, and see what are the chances of you want to get funding for the projects that are listed in your CIP. So there's always newer programs coming in every year. So talk to funding experts and set up a meeting with the state representatives, and they're definitely very available and can provide you with information that is needed that can help you complete those CIP projects. With that, thank you all for this opportunity for our team to work on this project. Huge kudos to your team for providing us the information what we need for a successful project completion on this AIA. And I can take any questions, or you can direct the questions to Todd.
Got any questions?
That's very thorough.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Now we're moving to the appointment of.
No, we got another.
Oh.
We're not saying like.
Okay, sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Megan Powell, and I am the North Carolina funding team leader for Withers Ravenel. I'm here today to present the Merger Regionalization Feasibility, or MRF grant. Similar to the AIA grant that DD just talked about, this is a different grant that was applied for by the town a few years ago, and it looks at a little bit different information in relation to your water system. It takes a lot of the information that DD's team worked on with your AIA in terms of your CIP, and it incorporates that into this project. So what is an MRF? An MRF is a merger regionalization feasibility study. It is funded by the North Carolina Division of Water Infrastructure, or DEQ. People used to call it DENR back in the day. It used to be the acronym. I still sometimes refer it to that. And the purpose of this grant is to really just look at options. And if you wanted to further regionalize or merge your water system, what could that look like? Nothing in this study is binding. It's just, if you were to go down that path, what could it look like, to give you some information to make great choices moving forward for your utility. It's a very high level, 50,000 foot view of everything. What we did in this study is we looked at, we took our engineering and our financial teams and brought them together, and we looked at potential partners based on the grant application that the town worked on a few years ago. We went through, we looked at the application, we looked at your audits, budgets, past CIP plans, and the CIP that was just presented as part of the AIA. Any existing interconnections, the current condition of your infrastructure was pulled from the AIA grant, any interlocal agreements you had, and talked to the potential partners. For this grant, the partners identified were Energy United Water Corporation, which you already work with, and of course the county and the city of Hickory, since they help manage their system. We did not talk with the city of Hickory directly in this. We spoke directly with the county, since they are the identified partner and own the infrastructure that was looked at. Through this, we looked at a lot of different options, financial, economic, and political with this, and we identified, too far. That's where we're going. A couple of options here. Option A, B, and C. Option A is to look at things as the status quo. The same way that you have now, but moving forward, what it would take if you just kept everything the way it was. Option B was to look at a potential merger of water only with Energy United. And option C would be to switch where you're buying water now to buy your water from Alexander County. What would that look like if you wanted to go that option? Now, with each of these areas, we know that there's a lot of economic, financial, and political things that can come into play with this. So we tried to look at what those things could look like to give you information from that perspective from each one of those. So for option A, this would be for the town of Taylorsville for the status quo to keep things the way they are. The main thing that we always look at these is, what is the money going to take with this, right? Now, looking at the CIP that was presented and is in this report, it would take an increase of 20% annually for the next 5 years to accomplish the things as part of your capital improvements plan to keep things just the way they are. And that's looking at those critical infrastructure things that Dee just mentioned, as well as some of the other CIP things that the town has identified. We understand that that's likely not a feasible option. 20% increases in revenue year after year are a lot. Your manager has been extremely proactive already and is working with our team on a couple of grant applications to help pay for some of these things. So if you look at the CIP, which is on page 4 of your report, you look at the upsize of Highway 90 and the upsize of Highway 16, as well as the upside or the rehab of the Bells River Booster Station and a couple of other small things we're going to put in there. That's already in the works to look into getting a grant for those options. If you were to not include these options in your CIP, you would be looking at increases more around the line of 6 or 7% needed annually to kind of keep things the way they are if you were to not take any of these capital items on. Now, the reason they're included is because they're important projects. That we want you to make sure that you keep them on the forefront of things that need to happen, and looking for funding is a great way to look at that, to move forward with that. For option A with Energy United, they would need to increase their revenues around 7% annually to keep things the same, And then the county would also be at 7%, again, to keep things just the way they are. Any questions on option A before I move on to the next option? Okay. Option B looks at the option of merging your water system with Energy United. In this option, all of your town water customers would become customers of Energy United. They would no longer be Town of Taylorsville water customers. You would retain your sewer system in this option because this study looks at water only. Bulk water sales from Energy United to the town would end, but retail customers would become part of Energy United. You would pay the town customers would again pay the same rate as Energy United customers, and then they would acquire the water system. And in this case, we showed it without compensation. The reason we did is because there's a lot of factors that go into any sort of negotiation of transfer of the system, and that's just not something we were able to study as part of this particular grant. So in this case, you would lose the water revenues and half of your operating revenues. Since the system, again, would need to be negotiated, we showed it as without compensation, but oftentimes when we see these happen, there is some sort of compensation that goes along with it. Sometimes we see it just everything gets turned over. It varies when we look at these across the state.
You might have to pay somebody to take the water system.
Some people have paid to take water systems away. I mean, I've seen it done in a lot of different ways. It really just varies between, you know, is the system in really bad shape? Your system is in pretty good shape, as we just learned. Everybody's is a little bit different, so it's kind of hard to say what other people do, but I've seen it done a lot of different ways across the state. In this case, if you were to merge, you would need to increase your sewer revenues by 13% annually to be able to keep things the way they are in the sewer system. Any questions on option B? Okay. Option C is where the town would buy the water from Alexander County versus buying water from Energy United that you're currently doing. Currently, you pay $2.09 per 1,000 gallons for treated water. The county, when you purchase water from them, you're paying almost double that at $4.09 per 1,000 gallons. This rate could even be exceeded for wheeling fees, which is it's what you call a fee when you're paying to get it to you, the cost of maintaining the pipe system to get the water to you. That's what a wheeling fee is. And treatment capacity fees. We don't really know what those would be right now. It's not something we were able to cover as part of this study. Alexander County wasn't able to give us a lot of information of what that could look like, just due to some ongoing negotiations they have with the city of Hickory. They weren't able to provide us a lot of information at this point in time. So in this case, basically the cost of water would double from what you're currently paying if you were to switch to buy everything from the county. Further complicates things is you do have a contract right now with Energy United and Newton to buy water from them at a certain rate, and you would have to continue to at least pay that rate whether you're buying the water or not. In this case, you would need to increase revenues 27% in the first year and 20% for every year after that. Any questions on option C? Again, these are just options presented. We don't have a recommendation for each way to go. Some of them obviously financially make a lot more sense than others. As part of this study, we also did a rate study. And this rate study, we're kind of switching gears a little bit, and we're looking at what your current rates are and options for current rates and a status quo option. So we were kind of think back to option A, keeping things the way they are. We then performed a rate study on the current rates for an option A of the status quo moving forward. In this case, we do provide a couple of recommendations of things you would want to think about as we're moving through the budget process this year and next year, things you may want to do in terms of your water rates to move forward. So with our water rate study, we know there's approximately 1,400 customers, 1,300 sewer customers that are actively billed. Around 80% of their water and sewer users are residential, only around 20% of the users are commercial, and the average monthly usage is 2,700 gallons. Currently, your rate structure is set to where you have a fixed or minimum charge, and then volumetric charge and capital charges. So there's 3 different types of charges that you have in your current rate system. The minimum charges includes the first 1,000 gallons of monthly usage. Volumetric charges, you have 3 different tiers for residential uses, 5 for non-residential, and then the first 3 tiers of each are for the same, so you know that. And the capital charges are your fixed monthly charges applied to your non-residential customers based on their usage. Outside users pay rates that are much greater than your inside users, from between 1.5 and 1.98 times. So, for different proposals, the first one that we have proposed is to adjust your fixed rates to vary by the max flow rate. And that's basically changing your increase factor based on the meter size. This is a good best practice. It pushes costs of potential greater water demands to those that are higher volume. So it really puts the charge on your higher volume users and your commercial users versus your residential users with this particular option. The second proposed rate change is to charge a uniform rate for inside-outside users. Currently, you're charged 2 times your outside rates from where current charges vary from 1.57 to 1.8. It just kind of makes that a little bit more uniform between inside and outside. It's kind of a best practice to kind of charge a more consistent ratio for inside and outside users based on the different tiers. And then the third proposed change is to reduce your $1,000 gallon allocation in a fixed charge. It's best practice to do this to help cover the cost of maintenance and existing infrastructure, helps repay loans and bonds that are used to build that infrastructure, and this is something that could be implemented over a period of time, so it wasn't something that customers would get all in the first year. You could do it a little bit at a time over 3 or 4 years to help people get used to that. Any questions about these potential proposed rate structures? And there's a lot, in the actual report, there's a lot of scenarios. It has charts for each one of those to show what those would look like. It goes into a lot more depth in there. Okay. Well, the next steps that we recommend is to have a discussion as a board of how you would want to move forward with any of these. I know you're going, budget season is getting started. You're getting ready to start working on your budget for next year. That's something I would definitely recommend to do as part of your budget process as you move forward. Thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate working with the time today and working with the county. You guys have a great staff. It's been a pleasure to work with them on this project for the last few years. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Okay, now we're going to move to number 4, the appointment of an interim finance officer.
We don't have to vote on that, we just need to formally inform you of that in a public meeting that we appointed Angela Wagner as our interim finance director. She has some accounting experience, so she's going to help us with tag team with the rest of this year throughout the end of the year. As we're able to permanent position, see how Angela does. And we're also continuing to take resumes for that. So, I think we're in a good spot for the end of the year.
Any discussion? Staff reports. Aaron.
As you've seen, we've now completed the AID and regionalization grant projects. We're currently working very hard on the software conversion project and getting everything switched over there. There's a lot of time-consuming work going on with that. Everything has went smooth so far. We hope to be ready to build next week so that building the new format will come out and everybody will be able to switch. We've had a lot of interest and questions from the community about the switch, especially with the Trans Action Team to convenience fees and whatnot. We've had a lot of interest in the in-house bank draft option. So I think that will be a very popular option moving forward, which will help us in the long run as well. With less foot traffic in the office and quicker payments there, and guaranteed payments. As far as the guys doing the crew, they began working on the FEMA projects now that mowing season slowed down. They're working at the park today at Third Avenue at that culvert, replacing some of the rock that got washed away here in Helene. They're gonna move from there into the park itself and work on that culvert. And then we will work on the wastewater outfall line. That'll be the last project, that'll be the biggest project that we'll do. Leaf trucks running full blast, Jack knows.
So do I. They were at my house earlier.
So that's going on. I think with the weather this past weekend, a lot of the leaves are falling now. So once we get past this spurt here, we should be on the home stretch of that.
What's the maximum reach for the vacuum arm?
I think it's 10 foot from the curb. That's what we recommend everybody have as close to it as possible.
Because with Kenny's, 10 foot is out of question, so you might have to then rake them, plus not ever be sucked up, then have to rake them to the curb, or closer to the curb.
Right.
Right, good seeing you. Yeah, good to see you. Sorry to interrupt, but
No problem.
let us know if we can do it. Thank you. We appreciate the partnership.
Thank you. See, I didn't know, and emergency services drove by my house 3 times a day, and I was like, are they not supposed to get out into the road, or are they supposed to stay in the yard? But I was afraid if I left them where they were, that they weren't gonna get them picked up, so then I was like out in the middle of the road, blowing them back toward the yard, and so they were kind of like off the curb, in the edge of the yard. So, but you say it'll reach 10 feet up on, so they don't have to necessarily go all the way out into the road. They're piled up right there.
Yeah. And, you know, the suction power hose itself, 10 foot of hose length, it can get a little bit further than that. But of course, like you said, if it gets too close and traffic noise back into the yard and whatnot.
You know, that would be a good, little public service announcement that could go on our Facebook page that Public Works makes, like the police department's been doing those things. If they did a little tutorial about where to put your leaves so that people would know. I mean, because I'm sure other people have the same question.
Right.
On the same issue.
Huh?
On the same
The
issue.
same issue, yeah.
You can put, their leaf requirements in our last newsletter, so it will just upload our newsletter to Facebook.
Well, that would be good. Actually, put the newsletter on the Facebook page. would be
Yeah.
good.
We don't have any other, staff member, Nicole, have a report? Okay. Okay, Nathan? Huh?
Y'all have questions about the report now that,
They're kind
yeah.
Oh,
How far in depth do you want to discuss it? I mean, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know how far we want.
I mean, I don't see any, there's zero benefit to merging with the county.
That's
and
exactly right.
I mean, there's no
That's
benefit
obvious.
there. And, I mean, to me, personally, I've said it many times to George over the past 6 years. If we get rid of one thing, and it was always the police, if we get rid of the police, we can give water to anybody, and there's no need to even have a town hall. I mean, what
Right.
services are we providing to our community if we're not providing the water? What else are we needing for if we don't have water?
sewer.
Yeah, but still,
But I mean,
I mean, it won't be long, that'll be gone. I mean, it's just,
You don't
You don't.
give water away without sewer, because then you have no way of, unless you negotiate a deal with Energy United or whoever you work with, cutting sewer off is impossible unless there's a clean out in the front yard that you can plug.
Well, the thing I remember is that our water is much better than
Yeah.
Alexander County's water.
Exactly.
Because of where we get it from.
it is.
Right.
yeah,
But that 20% that they mentioned, like she said, that was based off of putting those CIP projects in place, which the top 5 CIP projects that she meant that they put in place was the 5 highest cost projects. That was the new line on Main Street, that was 12-inch line on 16.
a builder for bridge.
Yeah, all of that, you're talking, you're talking $10 million worth of projects there that she's looking to fund, and
And that's where that 20%.
that's where that 20%.
But we're working on getting grants to do those, right?
Yes, correct. Before those were in place, like she said, it was only 6% to be status quo with what we're doing. And that was given, with the 6%, that was given $100,000 a year for capital projects or equipment, things like that, to make sure that we keep our fleet up to date and things like that. So that 20% number is more of a scare tactic than anything else. It's not, that's not truly what we need to stay status quo. I want to point that out with being not new here. And like in the past, we use grant funds to do everything. There's no small town around here that generates enough revenue with their fees to be able to afford to maintain their infrastructure completely.
And from what they
So-
say, ours looks like it's in pretty good shape. So,
Which was not necessarily true either.
oh,
I
okay.
mean, they didn't exercise valves, so they don't know what valves function. There's a lot of valves that we're afraid to exercise because we're afraid we'll break them in the process of doing it. So there are things that we do need to work on. Valves is a big thing. The hydrants, like y'all know, we've got, there's 7 right now that they bagged, even though only 2 of them should truly be bagged. They got bag hacked with the fire department. There's 5 of them that you have to just screw the cap on tight because it will leak. But they do function. If there's a fire, you can pop that cap off, connect the hose to it, and use it. It's not non-functional. There's 2, this one right here, and then one at the, I think where it was at. There's one other that it'll only turn 3 times.
The one in my yard,
I can't remember now.
it don't have a bag on it.
No, it would have a bag on it, the one that's not working completely properly. But we had stuff, just waiting on it to come in to fix all of those. We're still, we gotta come up with the source for cutting the water off to be able to fix it. And when we were able to get it cut off and fix it, we'll have them down on that hydrant, and so in the future, we won't have to worry about that anymore. But things like that, I feel like that report didn't give an accurate depiction of, just because they didn't have the information, because we don't necessarily have the information.
But I mean, did we get anything positive out of having, did it cost us money to have them do that?
No.
Okay. So, but the positives would be that they digitized and mapped out, so they didn't map out where our water lines are?
They
Okay,
did what we already have done. We literally gave them all the information.
We said they sent some field crews out or something. Did they or didn't?
They said they did, I don't know what they updated on.
So we've already updated our GIS mapping system.
Is that layer available to the public?
It's not, Not everything, because we have like meter location and all of that in there. Certain aspects that you don't necessarily want.
No, I agree with it,
But yes, the county has, our water lines that are on GIS are, I would say, 95% right. The county struggles at times with their GIS system having all that accurate information.
But there is a layer you can turn on.
So I'm saying there's a layer.
There's a layer on GIS.
Yeah. The COG done that grant back in 2018, they went out and GPS all the meters, they gathered all that data before. So all that was in place, and we just basically, they literally got in touch with COG and gathered that information and imported it into their GIS system, mapping for that information. So we already had that, and then now with the sewer AIA, part of that funding went to the sewer system on the same GIS map. So our system with the COG has water, sewer, and within time we'll have clean out plugs and all that stuff mapped in there. That way, whether I'm here, Luke's here, or it's a clean slate and somebody new comes in, they've got that, they can go out and find whatever they need to, regardless of any prior knowledge of our system. And on the rate study part of it, where we vary from 1.59 to 1.98% on our outside rates. I know y'all heard the complaints about how high our outside rates are. The minimum on water and sewer bill outside is almost $140. It's very, very high, and that's just the minimum.
but the sewer customers are outside, they voluntarily became sewer customers outside, but they don't.
Right.
They have to ask to
They
contract
do.
in.
But we have some that are just on the outskirts, Sterling Lane. They tried 3 different times to come into the city limits, and all 3 times prior council members have declined that request because there wasn't clear right of way for Sterling Lane. So as soon as the county's project is done, you can mark it down, that annexation request is back on the agenda of the request again to come inside city limits. The percentages are closer to the 1.6% on the outside rates for the residential side. Where it gets to the 1.98% is on your high-end volume on the outside rates, which really only it affects the prison more than anybody. So
It can't be that many, can
no,
it? Business outsides,
just using.
yeah.
You've got the prison's the top one. Sure Take crosses it every once in a while. Trying to think of some of the others that are large. Paragon Films hits part of it. They don't get the full 1.98% of it. Ironically, Morales, which is next to it, hits it. And the only reason they hit it is because they use water to cool their equipment, and they didn't put, and it's the same way with Paragon, they didn't put a meter on, or they didn't separate the water meter for the water cooled equipment, so whatever passes through that meter, they get billed sewer for. When Morales first came on the system, they were using 11,000 gallons a month for sewer. Then their machines wouldn't stay cool with the cooling system that they had in place, and they had to go to water cooling, and now they use on average 200,000 gallons a month.
That's going to the sewer system?
No,
It's not, they've separated that. It's not,
But we have no way of knowing outside of putting a flow meter on their sewer, which is gonna run you $7,000 to $10,000 to put that meter on, what they're using, so they're being charged. Now, if they would want to spend the money and put that meter on, we could reduce it.
so they're not sending 200,000 gallons to waste treatment.
Okay, so we do or do not have to take any kind of action on this stuff. It's really just like a plan. It's like, this is what's out there, this is where we feel this needs to be fixed in the future. You know, you should be planning to do these things,
Yes.
which we already were.
The December meeting, there'll be a resolution, just accepting the plans, because that will be returned to the state.
Okay.
To finalize the grant.
But not like saying,
Oh, to finalize the grant that we already had where we spent money. This was part of
Is
that.
this 100% free?
It's 100% grant, so this is just to finalize the project. We didn't spend any money on either one of these projects, but the state requires a resolution acknowledging that the board received it and approves the study.
not
It
what their
doesn't
recommendation.
say that you choose any options or anything, it's just that you.
So we got a grant to cover the cost of doing these two studies.
Yes.
They actually did no work. They just get the money from the grant.
They just work.
I mean, as far as physical work on the stuff, they did work to make these papers.
That report is.
It's the work.
That report costs the state $155,000.
Okay.
That was just one of them.
Okay. Nathan.
All right. Water and sewer. Aaron and I have been talking, there's about, looking at applying for some grants, so, the current programs now, you can get up to $5 million for sewer projects, and up to $10 million for water. For the $10 million with water, the first 5 is, 100% principal forgiveness. The second 5 is, 75-25% split. So we would take on $1.25 billion in debt service, which would be about $62,500 a year for 20 years if we accepted the full 10. But we're going to apply for the full 10 and see if we get it, and if not, then we'll take what we get. And even if we get the full 10, if we want to dive into a more deeper financial analysis on how we would come up with money to pay for that, we can always back that off a little bit to where it's in around us more financially feasible if we can produce that 65 in the future. But the money's available, so we feel like it's a good idea that we should go for it, since we have these projects identified that we'd like to do and to improve our system. So the next meeting in December, we'll have to approve, present to be approved by these 2 different agreements for grant applications. Before we know it, it'll be the first year, and then next year we're going to roll into budget season. So we're going to look at starting to plan our budget retreat next February. So we're probably going to reduce it to just 1 day. It's not a day and a half like it was last year. So I'll see if we can still do it at the bank. So once I get more of a potential date for that, I'll send that out to you all, and we'll kind of figure out what the best date is for everybody. Still working towards a vision for the project, the hospital property. The law firm has produced the first rough draft of the performance agreement between the nonprofit and the property owner. So I had some comments on that and sent that back and sent it to the nonprofit board so they can provide their input. So you should have a call with the attorneys at some point in time in the next few days to go over some of those comments, and they'll continue to draft that and move forward with that. Christmas trees going up on Friday. Thursday, evening after work, we'll block off those spots over there next to the park so that we have somebody's going to pull the trailer up here to get Christmas tree up here. And then just to speak on the software conversion real quick, as Aaron said, there's been a lot of tedious work that he and Rachel and Nicole and everybody's been doing, mostly those three. So I just want to continue to say thanks to them and tell them how good a job they've been doing with that. It's been a challenge the last few months converting over, and we're getting closer and closer. And so very grateful for the work that they're putting in for that. And next Wednesday, we'll have our Thanksgiving brunch at 10:30 a.m. If you guys want to come and be here in the council chambers, all staff is invited and you all are invited as well.
What was
What
that?
time?
Thanksgiving brunch that we had last year, the day before Thanksgiving, and it's 10:30 in the morning. We said 10:30, right?
But you said it's Wednesday?
Wednesday the 26th.
Okay, I have a question. After we spoke at the Watts property, did you come back and look and see, did y'all find what the curving and stuff used to look like down there? Because Mr. Coxon still visits me regularly. And I mean, I've walked to the corner back there. I
No, not yet,
Yeah.
because we've been
That's what it is.
dealing with the software conversion. Was that the street involved in the brick grant? No.
That's First Avenue Southwest, and where B's talking about, and Mr. Coxon, but
Yeah, we haven't had a chance to get together on that, because of all the conversion stuff that's going on, so, but we will, and we'll see what we do there.
Well, a lot of that process, or a lot of that water came when they cleared off the lot behind the dentist office and put that grass park in there. They cleared out grass and trees and everything, put that park in there, and not a buffer slowing down. I know B&M built the yard up, so everything technically channels back towards the road instead of to the back of the property there now.
no, there's still a drop that goes down there, but his landscaper put in some kind of something that, I don't know. And then they added concrete things down, like where they built up higher than Coxon is. They put in some kind of concrete things all the way down through there back to the corner that, I don't know why he's still fussing about it, but he just says his basement's gonna fill up with water. And I don't know where it's gonna come from, because now he's put in sod and all this stuff that's back there that's should absorb. I mean, really shouldn't be any drainage off there, other than, now, B says that the water's coming off the road because there's no curb and gutter around there, and it's flow water from the road into their yard. So, and it is, and it always has. There's overwash and mud all along the sidewalk there. So Nathan was gonna come back and look at how the curb and gutter was there before, but the road would have to be either brought down,
Yeah.
or his yard would have to be built up more, so.
Well, the other factor into that was all the water that comes all the way out of Senior Homes property, where they asphalted that whole back lot. Their drain pipes drain out of that wall right on the road, so everything from.
And there's nothing over there. There's no grates or openings for the water to go into. Like at the corner, there's nothing there. And Nathan and I walked all up and down through there. There's nowhere for that water to go, other than the path of least resistance, which is typically either right across into his yard on the side yard, or into that intersection where at times the water has been this deep in that intersection. I mean, because I've had to drive through it. and there's nothing there for it to go into. So there really needs to be some storm drains put in that area. So that intersection probably needs to go back on the next, whatever road grant request thing that we have. But it's is it DOT, are both of those streets DOT or both of those streets town? They're both town streets.
And then the other kicker, if you put curb, if you do curb and gutter, you're gonna have to raise it up higher to get there. Unless you cut the road down. But when you do curb and gutter all that water, that's gonna add to that intersection.
It's gonna go right there.
It's gonna go right
What
there.
about this? What if, because also when we looked at it, it looks like there should have been parking places, like there's a whole area. I mean, I understand, I was an environmental science teacher, and I understand that if you put more concrete, it could make the problem be worse. But then again, you're not gonna have the mud. There's that whole area that Harbison's had added gravel out there to mud that looks like if you stand and look, it should have been 2 or 3 more parking places. And he would have a strip of dirt right there that he could sod or whatever. So why was that? Was it ever parking spaces, or is the asphalt underneath that dirt that's there?
There's no asphalt there. I would say that, Liverpool at the time didn't want parking spots in front of that house.
He would probably rather have parking spaces rather than mud. I'm just saying, but you could ask him.
But if you look at it from back, once you pass the dentist office, it angles and lines up with the library.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it looks like, he said, his comment to me was, it looks like it should be parking places. It looks like that is part of the town street. I need to know what's what and how can we work together to get this issue resolved. Well, if we just pave it and put parking spaces there, we've gained 2 or 3 parking spaces, we've resolved that water issue, and he's gonna add grass down through there.
Technically, we want to resolve the mud.
Right, we resolve the mud. The water,
There, and if you go level with it, it's gonna pond up right there on the sidewalk, even worse. Something's gotta be cut to take that water to Second Street to get it to the storm drains.
well, it's kind of probably like over here at Brent's and stuff, because it's the same street, same kind of issue. It probably just needs to be graded down in that, I mean, because if you look, that's a big dip too, in that intersection as well as this one over here, so.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just needs to stay on the radar because they're now paying taxpayers, not that the other people aren't, but.
Which would be, I mean,
And Brady.
I don't even know if it would be the same amount of money if you're curbing and sidewalking or storm drains. Which would be the easiest or which one is?
The cheapest would be curb and gutter.
Okay, well, that was my question.
Curb and gutter is about $40 a foot.
Okay.
Just for the curb and then sidewalk.
But if you curb and gutter, the road's gonna have to increase, which is gonna increase the dip at the stop sign.
Go increase the water to stop sign, yes. I talked to Benji because we had a final review of the prison or the Paul pump station. That project, that portion of the project's done now, except for a few checklist items that are left on there. But I told Benji then, we talked about the sidewalks and the street repaving and the Northwood culvert. And told him part of the reason we needed to hurry up was because there was funding left that we needed to spend, and as long as our other projects are taken with engineering, we didn't know what was going to be able to get done with that. He's supposed to be sending Todd up here to look at that area, and get an engineering perspective on what we can do.
That area right there at Second and First Avenue? Okay. So someone is coming to look at it. That's my responsibility.
Whether or not we have the funding
Right.
after they.
Because the
look at
drain
it.
action probably would be the, what would get rid of it.
Right.
Where it's not peddling in the intersection, it's not peddling over here in the yards or going down somebody else's basement, it would just go under.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Nathan? General
Any
discussion?
follow-up with Duke Power on streetlights on the west side of town? Have you really made a phone call
I made several phone calls and not gotten a response to our streetlights.
or, I think Food Line's gonna call them now because they knocked their power off to their marquee. So, they may have a little more power.
Also, made a couple calls across the power line issues over there. I don't know if it'd be better if the church called, because they own that property or not, since they're the property owner, and requested to go out and look at it, but I'll continue.
Who's
For the mobile cafe.
Oh, yeah. The one that Mountaineer had made the request.
Yes.
Where's it at? Right here?
You're right here, well, on top of Towers Building, there's power coming in. Well, when they back their tractor trailer, Mountaineer, to give them free chicken, they're afraid they're gonna tear all that power line down. So that needs to be raised up about 10 foot, so that they don't rip all that communication and power.
There's a dangling power pole that's split about halfway up. That's in front of Rita Bryant's house.
You
It's
talking about
like-
the one at the intersection, like you go to the
Yeah, like-
car? I took a picture of it, I was like.
Yeah, I backed up and looked at it and Zach
It's
and,
just getting ready to go.
What is that? It's Center Street.
It's an
Center Street.
AT&T.
okay, yeah, that's what they said.
Okay, I didn't think it was.
We've
power.
used that AT&T for a year now, because it's not just started, it's
So a really bad
Yeah.
storm is gonna throw it into
Oh,
her
that's
house or in the
yeah.
yard, or in the road.
Apparently that's what they're gonna wait on to do, because they're sort of backed up. But we've made numerous calls.
I mean, it's dangerous. I mean,
Yeah, it is, yeah, cause that thing's gonna fall.
you have any, now we're at, general discussion, council general discussion. You have anything else? You said Friday the tree's going up. December the 2nd, the tour of homes is gonna be in that same area that we're talking about between Presbyterian and church. It's gonna make sure that public works goes through and the leads are all picked up, because a lot of people will walk, because it's from my house, the Presbyterian church, the Presbyterian Church Fellowship Hall, Tabitha and Bobby's, and the Coughlins. So they'll be walking those, as long as the weather's good, people will park and walk this section of it, and then drive out to Paul's Saint's house. So, we'll just make sure everything's
That's
picked up,
fine,
picked up
we were
and
still
everything.
having our meeting on the same night because of that. I asked
Oh
him,
my gosh, I didn't even think about
I
it.
know, well, that's when I asked him, I said, what you said about it? Because when I saw that on Facebook, I was like,
I'm done. Okay.
I'm gonna get it.
I've had a lot going on in the last 14 days, and my brain's not completely working yet. And then, hometown Christmas stuff, I'm about a week behind on doing what needed to be done, but I had other things I had to do first, so. But, we'll be good. I just gotta get some stuff ready to put out. Because I don't have anything out there yet, but as soon as I get it, you put it up on the town Facebook then.
Okay. Do you have, things booked for every Thursday already, or just
Yeah.
the first one?
I have things booked for all days. Do you have some other stuff you want to add to it?
I've already got everything booked.
What do you mean?
He wants to sing one
Yeah.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. I don't think I want to grace you with my unpleasant singing.
You do or do not have your singing?
I do not.
You don't wanna do it all Thursday nights?
No, I think in the future, it'd probably be better if we reduced it to one night, because a lot of foot traffic is just on that first night with the tree lighting, and because we can still do, you know, like the carriage rides and stuff, but as far as, I don't know, I don't feel like there's as much foot traffic in the park and around downtown on the second and third Thursday night as there is on the first Thursday night.
There's always been more on the first Thursday night, but it just depends on what we do. It's like that, gets people to move from place to place
Okay.
on those nights. I mean, if we had there'll be a ton of foot traffic on the third Thursday night because that's the ACHS band and jazz band. I mean, that's a huge group.
And some people wait till that last Thursday night. I mean, they're like, oh, well, it's just the last night. Or that's what I saw last year. We had a lot on the last Thursday night.
I don't know. I just think I think it's been bigger every year. It's just, other than group singing, like even when I put professional paid people up there singing, people wouldn't sit out there. They do it on Hallmark movies. I don't understand why they
That's great.
put movies on the stage, and there'd be like 5 people watching the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't hit what the thing is.
Ain't nobody gonna sit out.
But if you had like roasted marshmallows somewhere that they could, different things that they could do.
Get your snow machine.
We had one last year and people bragged about it. The guy volunteered and did it on the first night.
Okay, no.
What?
Yeah. What happened? I was going, oh my gosh.
I bring that.
You bring the snow machine back? Okay, but I'll call it and see if he's, they do it.
Yeah, go ahead, make them cry.
It's just like, I can't handle any more abuse over this. I mean, my gosh. Christians being hateful about Christmas. It was beside the stage.
And it was so pretty with the kids up there singing and then the snow falling. I mean, it was just a moment, you know what I mean? And then I hear this, I'm going, what? It's, how do you ruin that? I don't know.
I'm open to suggestions if you have other things besides movies and singing groups.
Okay.
If we could find some plays, like a group that is a short play. Maybe I'll call the woman at the high school. See if the
What would be
drama
nice,
department wants to do a
and I
play.
mean, they wouldn't be on the stage, but if you could get some church groups to
Walk around
Carol.
and carol. I begged.
Yes.
I said,
I should
letters.
do
I
this
paid for
kid.
that. Okay.
Everywhere. I mean, I don't.
Anyway, anything else? Any other discussion? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, you got
Make a motion.
Second.
What's your
motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 We're adjourned.